This is The Speaking Show. I'm David Newman, and you're tuned in to the #1 podcast for speakers, consultants, and experts who want to speak more profitably. I am here with digital badass and copywriting guru, Tania Dakka. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's quite an honor.
So, we've done over 100 episodes, Tania, and I don't think we've ever done a single show about copywriting.
Really?
Yet, I know, it's crazy. Yet, it is one of the most important, if not the most important things that people need to grow their business and articulate their fabulousness and get attention from prospects. So let's zoom out 50,000 feet. Share a little bit about your journey with copywriting and what brought you to what you're doing today. And then we'll talk about what you're doing today and into the future.
Like you said, it's the most important thing, especially online. Obviously, offline businesses can function, but there still has to be ad copy written at some point. There still has to be marketing material, naming, and all of that. So it's a critical hinge in the process, if nothing else. There are multiple pillars at play. There's also the visual and branding and that sort of thing. But if you can't speak in emotion, you can't really sort of bring people into your space and into your world. The number one thing, okay, you said my journey, I got off on the wrong tangent. So I guess it's my brooding Scorpio is what brought me to copywriting. And it's like I was doing intern work for a prolific author who had already written like 50 titles on Amazon and all of that. And he had been a copywriter before. So I was doing a little bit of his ebooks and blogs and that sort of thing. And I was like, I can't do this long form stuff. I don't have the attention span for it. And I had little children and I had started this thing so that I could learn how to function in the world of motherhood without dying. I ended up doing this writing internship and found out how much I really love copy. I didn't really have an idea of how deeply emotion played into it until I got in really deep. And I was like, oh, yeah, I made the right choice. That's how I got to where I am. And I've been doing copy since 2011, but I've not been doing it like full time. This is my job. This is my gig for about 3 years. And I get to write for 6 and 7 figure businesses. Some of them are consulting. I have some product-based business. So it's all fun stuff.
Yeah, that's totally fantastic. Well, again, just to start with the basic foundational stuff, I think we have to make it clear to folks that when Tania talks about copywriting, when I talk about copywriting, we're not talking about that little C in a circle. Trademark 2019, 2020, 2021. What we're talking about is writing marketing language that sells, like your website, your LinkedIn profile, your emails, your subject lines, your landing pages, things like that. Language on those pages is known as sales copy or marketing copy. Now, I'll tell you, I've seen all the crazy mistakes, and I'm sure you have too, especially when you say you work with a lot of consultants, you work with a lot of speakers. These people have an ego. One of the first things that I see, and maybe you've seen this too, is a lot of I, me, and my messaging. How do we get rid of that? How do we start to turn that around when you see that on a client's website? How do you gently break it to them that, dude, that's not going to work?
I don't know how to gently do anything, so I don't really do gently. Someone just pinged me and they said, I need a quote for this. And I took a look at the sales page. I was like, oh my God. I said, I'm sorry. This is why you don't have any sales. But that was it. It's like you just have to bring the light to them. They land on a site where somebody else is talking about themselves throughout the whole site. They're not going to be triggered. They have to think of it in that way. They have to think about it, what makes them want to buy.
Not only are we service providers and professionals, we're also buyers. So I think one of the things that you're saying is maybe a little bit of self-awareness comes when we take off our consultant or internet marketer hat and put on our buyer hat, take your name off that sales copy, put someone else's name in there, and see if you'd be compelled to do business with them.
Yes, exactly. I tell my list people all the time, go and take a look, read your stuff. Would you buy it if it wasn't yours? In their minds, I don't know if it's that they are all egocentric or whatever, but I think it's more like, this is my space. So everybody's going to come and see what I do. So I'm just going to tell them what I do. And they do it in more of like a brochure fashion. So it feels really cold, really distant, really like standoffish. If you think in terms of what their biggest takeaway from working with you is and feed it from that position, then you'll be in a much better place for conversions.
Yeah, no, that's so on point. And, this also reminds me of when you say put yourself in your buyer's shoes as objectively as you possibly can. The great David Ogilvy once said about advertising and copywriting that you need to enter the conversation already happening in the prospect's mind.
Yes.
That sounds good on paper. Your clients might be saying, well, Tanya, okay, great. How do I do that? And of course, the step before that is you have to really know your clients. You have to know your buyers. How do people get to know their buyers' wants, needs, triggers, fears, hopes, dreams, etc.?
Honestly, sitting down and talking to them. You can read through posts, you can read through comments, you can read through Amazon reviews, you can do all that stuff. But until you get into that one-on-one conversation with them, and that one-on-one conversation might actually be them working with you on something. So I am a big fan of something that people really, really hate. And that's going out and working with people for nothing. It's not really for nothing, it's for knowledge. Right. And it turns out to be the basis of everything that you are capable of doing for those people. And it turns out to be the currency of what you're trying to produce. So it's not for free.
Love that you're saying that. Obviously, I work with a lot of speakers and consultants and coaches. I am famously misquoted as saying, never work for free. Always get paid, never work for free. And I've never said that, and I don't believe that. And I want to get your opinion on this. I say never work for free for no reason.
Right.
And people don't complete that sentence when they quote me. Well, Newman says never work for free. It's like, no, Newman says never work for free because you're a dumbass. Never work for free without getting something out of it. So when you say, hey, I love working for free. I love doing projects on spec. I love getting into someone's business so I can learn. Tell us how that works. How does that unfold with you as a consultant and as an outside professional helping them? How do you make the approach? How do you make it not seem like weird or odd that you're willing to work for free? How do you maintain the professional integrity of your work as positioning as an expert? How does all that work?
In my position now, I would never need to do that. If I stay with the audience I'm working with now, I've built my thing. But when I was still wet behind the ears and I had the chops, I had done the study, but I didn't have the proof. Right? I didn't have the results to show off to people. I would literally stand in social media and make a jackass of myself, just having fun being my brand, because my brand has always been sort of, I don't want to say maybe goofiness. Like I stand up and talk shit all day long. And so people would respond to that. They come back and they engage and whatever. So I'd be like, hey, I want to do a couple of sales pages. You guys got any programs? And I'm going to do it for free. Just hit me. They already knew who I was because I had already sort of built that rapport with the back and forth in social. That said, I have pitched people through email because this was before Messenger and all of that. Pitched people in email and just said, hey, I'm trying to build my business. I know I can get you results. I've done my homework. And hey, I'm going to give you this copy. If you use it, that's great. I'd love a testimonial. If you don't, then that's fine too. And it would be like that. And I think I ran like contests on my Facebook page at that point. It was like, hey, who wants to win a free sales page? And, people would respond. That was what I was more interested in, web copy and ads weren't really ads at that time because we had a lot of organic. And I wanted to focus on sales pages. So that's how I did it. I think you just have to be authentic. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Hey, this interview is a real moneymaker. If you're serious about ramping up your reach and revenue as a speaker, trainer, or expert, book a confidential speaker strategy call with our team. The link is doitmarketing.com/call. It will be the most valuable 45 minutes you invest in your speaking-driven business. Speaking of value, let's get back to the show. I actually love a whole bunch of things that you just said a second ago. Number one is, let's be clear right now, Tanya doesn't work for free today. Just in case you get a whole bunch of flood of inquiries off this podcast going, hey, Tanya, you want some more free work? It's like, no, I'm good. I'm good today. But then also getting things in exchange, the testimonial, the name on the client list,
the results,
all of these different things. Not only that, but like you said, it's really an education. in where are these folks strong? Where are they weak? Where are the gaps? What are some of the triggers? Now, you mentioned triggers earlier about knowing the buying triggers or the sales triggers in your prospect's brain. What are some of the common triggers that your copy or any really outstanding copy should be aiming towards?
When we're talking about consultants and so forth, they are obviously the people who are looking for a solution to either more clients or more, happiness at home, or, you have to read into, what it is that that business is feeding into. 9 times out of 10, there's some tie-in to some internal piece that they're actually looking for. That's not the trigger that they will read about and be motivated to buy from. They're going to be motivated to buy from more immediate, tangible results. So you're looking into their process and you have to analyze what it is that they're talking about. So triggers, emotional balance, more money, more clients, more time. Time is always really, really big, especially if your audience is business people or entrepreneurs or business owners rather, because we all know how precious time is. And what's the saying? We can always make more money, but we can't make more time. You have to feed into what it is that you do and who you're serving in order to know their particular triggers.
Big elephant in the room, because I know you do a lot of work with entrepreneurs. I do a lot of work with entrepreneurs. People look at your business and even your copy, and they say, well, Tania, this is different because I sell to engineers. This is different because I sell to big Fortune 500 corporations. You're smiling now, and I'm smiling too. I think we're probably both going to head towards the same answer. When they say, my people are very analytical, they're not emotional. My people work in big Fortune 500 companies. The same thing that gets an individual person off the street is not going to convince a Fortune 500 person. What's your take on that?
When you present results, though, that's what convinces people. If you've got something that brings results, you put that first and foremost, because those are the people that don't have time to read the whole sales page. They're not going to get involved in all that emotion. You can get away with colder copy when it comes to corporate and engineers and analytical audiences. But in the end, everybody's looking for the same thing, and that's results.
Absolutely.
So bring that first and foremost, especially if you've got a colder audience. I would not do that with marriage counseling consultants and that sort of thing.
One thing that I think is a great debate in any sort of marketing, messaging, copywriting is the whole aspect of positive versus negative, pain versus gain. Tania, what's the right ratio? Should all be aspirational, wonderful, and a couple of, oh, by the way, danger, danger, danger? Should it be 80% danger, 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 1 or 2 glimmers of hope? Should it be 50-50? What's the balance of the positive aspect of the copy versus the negative or loss aspect of the copy?
First of all, it depends on who your audience is. Some audiences are very pain driven. I have some clients whose audiences won't respond when we write, affirming copy or positive copy or, pleasure driven copy. And then I have other audiences who will cringe if I lead with the negative and they will completely shut down. So you have to know your audience. You have to know who you're talking to. You have to know what it is that they want. In my client questionnaire, every question I ask, from what music they listen to what investments have they made lately, I always follow it up with why. Because that why lets me know, are they looking for the pleasure or are they looking for, getting away from the pain? When it comes to a balance, you have to bring them both forward. But it's going to depend on which one you lead with. That's going to determine your voice and your aspect for that whole page. That said, you also don't want to make promises of grandeur, because I think at this point in the online world, nobody's buying into the, hey, you can make $15,000 months, because I think we've already passed that. There was a time when that copy was working really, really, really well. But now people have gotten to the point where they've been burned so many times that they're not looking for those false hope headlines. They're looking for tools. They're looking for actual tangible mechanisms that will help them get from A to B. I mean, I've got one client, we don't even focus on any sort of pleasure or pain, really. We focus completely on the tool. We lead with that and we follow through with it, and it works really well for her. I think the more savvy the market has become, the more your copy has to evolve as well.
You said something really profound, and I'm wondering if this plays out across the board. You said, hey, get rich quick, $15,000 overnight, make money online, etc. That trend has passed. Used to work really great, used to get all kinds of response. Everyone started doing it. And now people are basically blind and deaf to that messaging because everyone's promising the same thing. Is there such a thing in the world of copy and messaging, especially online, which is your specialty? Are there trends? Are there fads? Is there an element of freshness? It's like the adoption curve, right? There's the early adopters that get in early, and we're still testing and beta testing and figuring that out. Then it hits the big time, and almost everyone's doing it, but it's still working. And then it starts to trail off. And then the people that are still doing that same kind of copy or the same kind of value proposition from 2-3 years ago, they're starting to get left behind because the world has moved on. How do we know when things are fresh, ripe, and getting rotten?
If you respond to it emotionally, then I feel like, it's in that space where it's still okay to use it. But if you get to a point where you've seen it, 5-6 times, you've been through the course and it didn't give you what you wanted, you can kind of feel into that. If it's something that you find emotionally triggering, it will likely be emotionally triggering for your audience as well. We were talking about how marketing had gone from, this loud sales message, whatever, until now everybody's sliding in everybody's DMs and saying, hey, I got this thing, or actually they're not even saying, hey, they're actually trying to get to know people and then getting snuggly and then, popping with a pitch. So, that is the newest trend. That's what people are working on. And that was Gary V. What?
2008.
Really? Was it that long ago?
That was in the first Crushing It book, wasn't it?
I'm not sure, but it's taken that long for everybody to get on that bandwagon, but everybody's doing it. So, and now it gets you to the point where you don't even want to respond to messages from people you don't know. That might not be the tactic for you. Getting seen in social has gotten so hard because of the silly engagement questions like, which is better, spaghetti or macaroni, and all this nonsense. And people will actually feed off of that and take leads from those kinds of silly questions. I don't even participate in those anymore.
Right. Well, I think we have a new Tania hashtag. It's hashtag getting snuggly. The getting snuggly strategy before the pitch, before the offer, before you invite them to something. Let's go kind of behind the curtain a little bit. Because I want to get to know you and your whole kind of brand persona. Where'd this whole badass thing come from? Digital badass, copy badass. I love it. It is very clear. It is very strong. It is very divisive, which is great because people are either for you or against you almost right out of the gate. Very smart strategy. My first question, I guess, is how are you brave enough to own that? And then what has it done for your business as far as the kinds of clients that are attracted to that persona?
Honestly, that name was not derived or whatever around me. This was what I wanted the people who came to me to walk away feeling when I first came up with it. I mean, it's who I am anyway. And my goal was to give them that courage to go out and say, I'm the best at what I do. While it is about me now, it wasn't in the beginning. I really am very lucky because I do have so many people that I love working with. It's largely in part of the, they see the website and they're like, hey, I love your website. Can I, I want to do that, and so it's that, what is it? Chris Bergen used to call it the freak flag.
Yeah, totally. Well, talk a little bit now that we're in this conversation. They hear about copy, they hear about messaging, they hear about positive, negative, all these different things. I think one of the things that you're really hell-bent on is results, which is great. Let's talk about persuasion. Let's talk about conversion. When you hear those two words or a client comes to you and says, Tania, I want more persuasive copy. I want more conversions. I want more opt-ins. What is that secret sauce that they're usually missing and that you're so great at providing? What does that actually look like?
It's them being in the forest. Was it not being able to see the trees for the forest? So they're inside. And when I step onto the scene, I get to look in from the outside. And so I have that whole, okay, so they brought me a list of the benefits working with them offers or their benefits of their product. But me in my head, I'm just like, no, well, that's not all there is, and that may not be the thing that they're focused on. So let's try this. The one thing that everybody really has to know about copy is that it's never done. Copy is never done. You have to evolve. You have to test. You have to see what is working. That involves, reading your data from your opens and reading your data through your click-throughs, reading your data with your engagement posts, reading your data with your ads, who's responding. It's not about the money every time, because if you look at it that way, a lot of us are probably doing fine. But if you want to grow and you want to get better, your copy has to evolve with you. The copy has to tighten. You have to be able to analyze what you're doing and then push it into that next level.
This is so great. And the question that your comment just prompted in my head, some people will hear that and they'll say, well, Tania, okay, that's great. I'm going to launch a survey. Let me launch a subscriber email survey. Throw in a whole bunch of open-ended questions and they will tell me what they want. They will tell me what they're wrestling with. True, false, good tip, bad tip?
Absolutely false.
Really?
Well, some people could get away with that. I'm not saying it never works, but you're taking a big chance. Number one, everybody's email inboxes are flooded with crap. So you have to be really, really good with a subject line to get in there. Then they're going to get in there and see that you want information from them. They're also not going to be, inclined to respond. If they do, 9 times out of 10, this goes back to Steve Jobs' comment about he asked people what they wanted. They didn't even know they wanted an iPod. I wish I could remember the quote. But it's like, if you went and asked people, nobody would say they wanted 30,000 songs in their pocket. Right. But my God, did we want 30,000 songs in our pockets? Yes, we did. So there's that whole, they don't know what they want. So if they do respond, they're not going to give you the answer that is really going to click for you. You have to use your savvy about what you do and the holes that you see in their processes, if you're a consultant, obviously.
Right.
And create around that.
So you either have to see the holes in what they're doing or hire you, and you will see the holes and you will do the work and you will figure out kind of how to embody that person's wants, needs, hopes, dreams, desires, fears, uncertainties, doubts, etc.
Yep.
What a great episode. Wowza. Tell you what, if you want to ramp up your revenue as an expert who speaks professionally, you should really check out our free online training at doitmarketing.com/webinar. And this is a lot of work. I think people look at good sales copy and they say, wow, I guess that person's a good writer.
True.
What's going on with that? Is that really about being a good writer, or it's about everything else that caused that writing to happen?
It's everything else that caused the writing to happen, because there's so much to know. There are good copywriters who can now, because we've been in this position for so long, we can say, okay, this is what we're missing. Let's go put it here. But it's not about the writing. It's about connecting those dots. It's about knowing where things are falling through the hole and presenting that in a way that the reader recognizes it, in a way that presents the brand's voice. So there's a lot at play when it comes to copy. And it really, really, I have to giggle when people bring me websites that they've just put something on the page and it's like, did you do any homework? Did we just write what we do? Or, sorry.
That's the classic brochure, right? It's just generic, totally vanilla, no emotional undertone, no buying triggers, no persuasion, no nothing.
No nothing.
No nothing. So I want to talk one more high-level strategic question, and then I want to just get a couple of gold nuggets, a couple of gems from your brain for our listeners, and then we'll talk about how they can get a whole lot more from you online and websites and goodies and downloads. Last strategic question is, some of us are doing okay, and we're looking for that next level. Now, you'll see some online marketers say, hey, this is only for you if you're running a 6-figure online business. This is only for you. Or even the subject line calls out, right? 20K per month business owners only. If that's their business, that's fantastic. That's great. A lot of civilians listening to us right now would be terrified to draw a line in the sand like that, where you say, this is for you, this is who it's not for, right? These are my people, these are not my people. In your experience, what's been the power of putting those explicit filters and criteria into your messaging? Does that help, even though it scares the hell out of people? Or how does it help when it helps?
It absolutely is necessary. if you want to work with only the people that you want to work with. You know what I mean? I'm not advocating that everybody do that, because if people are just starting out, they don't know always who it is that they want to work with. And they might start drawing the line too far back or too far forward in the sand. You know what I mean? If you're just starting out, you don't have your mission solidified, you don't have your process solidified, you don't have your ICA, your ideal client solidified, you don't want to go drawing lines in the sand. But if you have those things and you know that you want to work with a business that says, hey, I've got the budget to do this, and I know that I need this, and I've seen your results, so let's do this and let's see what happens, then that's when you start being ultra specific. So it's not for everybody. It's not for people that are just starting out. It's not for people that don't know what they need to know yet. But it is uber awesome for those of us who have done the dirty work and have done the deeds and know who it is that we benefit the most, not just that we benefit from, but the ones we do the best work for. Because if we are performing our best, they are getting the best results.
Right.
You have to be prepared to single people out if you know that information.
Yeah, no, that's so great, because when you call people out, you're basically asking for what you want.
Exactly. You're not trying to exclude other people to be mean. You're trying to exclude other people that you know you can help the most.
Right, exactly. We'll throw a couple gems at people before we wrap up, just to whet their appetite. You mentioned about the survey that the subject line has to be great. We could do a whole show on subject lines, because I know that you have a whole bunch of cool things that you teach people about subject lines and headlines and all kinds of things like that. What are 2 or 3 of your kind of favorite, most commonly kind of go-to advice around subject lines?
Be intriguing, because you really have so much competition in the inbox. It's almost like, social media is moved on a smaller scale to the inbox. So now you're competing with product brands and that sort of thing. So you need to be intriguing, and you also need to be reader-centric, because if you are writer-centric or business owner-centric, it's not going to trigger them to want to know what's going on inside that email.
And there's a thin line between intriguing and weird. Now, if people kind of cross that line and, the subject line is what I learned from yak herding, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of yak herding emails that day, but that might not get opened.
Right.
How do we know where's the line between intriguing and just offbeat or puzzling?
First of all, you're going to know because you are reading your data from your email list. You're getting a feel. As you interpret what they're opening, you are actually programming yourself to recognize what they are going to respond well to. Yeah. And then the second step is writing and I'm not kidding, 10 to 25 subject lines, and then going through them and choosing the right one. And nobody that I know that I tell to do that besides me does it. It's that's ridiculous. You're not going to just sit down and write subject line after subject line, but you have to, because if you're doing your programming from your analysis, you're going to get a feel for what works. So you'll be able to read that line, and you'll not be in your own head when you analyze it and say, okay, is this going to work or is it not?
Yeah, that's so great. Now, there's also online, there's some of these kind of subject line analyzers, subject line evaluators. Are those at all useful? Are they kind of a hint in one direction or another? What's your take on those?
My take is I've never heard of them.
Really? Oh my goodness.
I try not to be out there focusing on what's going on out there. I'm trying to evolve my craft. I'm not trying to pay attention to the noise.
It's like the instant coffee. It's like the quick fix, kind of robotic.
Have you tried any of them?
I have. I never know what results I'm getting.
I'll have to get those links from you, because I might have to go and check them out.
Sure, totally. And we can pop some of the links down here along with all of your fabulous stuff. I think if you're serious about copy and you're serious about results, you're not going to leave that to some online goofy app. You're going to work with a professional.
Right.
Now, I thought I saw somewhere, and maybe it was another show that you did, you've got some real gold nuggets about power words and what power words are and how and when to use them. What's the whole deal on power words?
Power words are things that snatch the brain out of rote reading, so to speak, right? Okay, so when the brain reads, imagine if it shuts down. It's like, okay, I've already seen this sentence 95 million times. I'm not going to finish reading it. And I have to force myself to read that kind of copy when people bring it. These are buzzwords, they're cliches, they're sleeper words. So when you work into power words, they are the words that get the brain active and engaged. All right. So it's the difference between saying, I went to the store, and saying, the tall, handsome guy opened the door, or whatever. You know what I mean? There's that whole narrative aspect to it. And then using the words that evoke the emotions that you're trying to evoke. Is it pleasure? Okay. Let's think about power words when it comes to pleasure. Discover is almost like overused at this point. Uncover, unearth, unearth how to get your kids to listen, and so these words that are not used often are what I call power words.
How about like reveal or revealed?
Yeah, it can be. It's a very common word in IM, but it's not overused. Depends on the context. It's definitely one that I like.
Awesome. Really, really great. Well, I'm going to ask you two final questions. The final question is, how do people get connected and stay connected to you? Any resources that you'd like to share? Before we get to that, though, the second to last question is, if folks were to take one key idea away from our fantastic conversation today about copywriting, messaging, articulation, distinction, helping them stand out from the crowd, what would that one piece of advice be?
Know what you're doing. Be a craftsman at what you do and know who you do it for, and then be able to speak from the buyer's perspective, not your own.
I love that so much.
Kind of a 3-layer thing. I don't think that really counts.
No, it's okay. Well, the soundbite that I share with people is that there's no such thing as a generic solution to specific problems, and all of our clients and prospects have specific problems.
True.
Tania, how do people get connected and stay connected, and what resources and goodies can we point them to?
I am everywhere. Tania Dakka, just look me up. I'm most active on Facebook. There is also the Copy Edge, which is a super resource for business owners for them to bring copy that they've already written, and I get to shred it without being polite. Just kidding. And give feedback on it so that it can be fixed. So the businesses who can't hire a copywriter have a resource to still publish professionally done copy.
That's located where, the Copy Edge?
legendmakercopy.com/edge.
Well, that wraps up another episode of The Speaking Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on iTunes. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thespeakingshow.com. See you next time.